of trying to fix these situations, and we have had it. This is not the first one, and if we allow it to continue, it will not be the last one. Because I don't care, how many hours Wayne would be brought in. There's just no way to keep track of that for 54 square miles. That's just not going to happen. But if we turned around and said all those paper streets are vacated, then everyone knows they've got to start from scratch. For the resolutions, I guess there'll be more information given, but has there been something from the county in writing that folks have gotten about the offering of the truck? I was at the freeholder meeting yesterday at Stillwater, and yes, there were some vehicles that were being gotten rid of, but I thought they all went to the Utilities Authority. So I wasn't sure what, in fact, is the current situation on that. And for the ordinance, is this a first or a second? I'm trying to remember now.
This is paperwork that got forgotten about, and this is now being finalized, and once this resolution is done, we will be in possession of the county truck at no cost. Thank you.
Okay,
Anyone else in the
so
public?
going to my question about the salary ordinance, which I had also asked, is this a first or a second reading?
Well, in every one of our meetings, this is a first reading. We haven't done so.
I was just trying to make sure it wasn't labeled on there, and we're trying to put together. And finally, for the sale of land, is that related to on the current situations, or is that a new one? I realize being open and transparent for some may be difficult, but I wouldn't think these are truly difficult questions, really, honestly.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. Anyone else in the public?
So you have no answer on that? Really?
I don't have an answer for you.
Thank you. Okay.
Anyone else in the public? Mrs. Hickman, is it?
Dickerson.
Hickerson.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sandy Hickerson. I am a representative of the Garden State Second Amendment grassroots organization. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that's statewide, and I was happy to see on your agenda tonight that you have under new business the Second Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. I've been working here in Estell Manor with Steve Enders and his group, Patriots Outside the Wire. This resolution represents the law-abiding citizens. Of course, we don't support the criminals. We don't want gun violence just as anyone else. We support gun safety, gun classes, training. We are law-abiding citizens, we're responsible firearms owners, and we're asking you to make a resolution stating that, supporting us. So that's what this resolution is about. I know that I was here over a year ago. COVID kind of got in everybody's way along with everything else. So thank you very much for re-looking at this again. We appreciate it, again, as law-abiding citizens. If there's any way that I can help answer questions or anything like that, I'll do my best to get answers for you if I don't know the answer. But I have here tonight 30 papers to turn in with the names of citizens here in Estell Manor that support a Second Amendment resolution. Again, if you're unaware, throughout the state, there's 11 counties that have passed, including Atlantic County, and we have 8 municipalities within the county that have passed this resolution so far, and I'm currently working on a couple, and then after I get those through, then of course I'll be reaching out to more municipalities. But I'm looking forward to working with you again. If you have any questions, if I can be of any help, please let me know. I'd be happy to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Mr. Allen?
I have a question about the comment that Mrs. Masker made about dumping the crushed concrete or DGA or whatever it is back there. even though it's a paper road, there has to be some form of marking or locating that paper road. You just can't assume that that path that's there now is, in fact, the paper road, because it may not be. So right now, there's been material dumped back there illegally, and it could be in the woods, it could be on private property. I think it's more of a, I don't know if it's a criminal offense for illegal dumping as it relates to county government. I mean, any place in the county, if you're caught illegal dumping, I know that there's a violation for that. So but she's right. You don't know if that road is the road. It's a path right now. So that road hasn't been surveyed. It has no markings. We don't know where the actual road is, so.
It was always a four-wheel.
And anybody that's going to be making an improvement on a road that's an unimproved road would have to file an application with the city in which there will be an escrow amount of money that will be forwarded over for the engineer to review, in which then council would then make the decision about what we're gonna do at that point based upon the checklist of what the engineer says. That's how it works.
So right now, it's
What if he just
illegal
does it
dumping.
Without, he's heard Wayne and he's gonna improve it.
He's obviously in violation, serious violation.
But I'm asking, so what is the, is there a fine?
Wayne has him in court.
That's the only remedy is court.
I'm not aware of any
Fishing game
remedy.
for
The
dumping.
solicitor sitting here, he hasn't said anything, but there is a remedy, so I'm assuming there is.
I only ask because court's kinda impotent right now.
Excuse me?
I said I only ask because court is impotent right now.
Joe, excuse me, isn't there something, I know that sometimes when these people go out riding quads on state property and stuff, and if the Pinelands or the game, and once they get to them, they can even issue them tickets for killing vegetation. So that they could at least be cited a ticket, something that's gonna cost them money. And then if we can prove that he keeps going out there, we could keep at least giving them tickets for killing vegetation. I know that's one that'll definitely stand up.
You can call it fishing game, because we call it fishing game about our property, the club property down the road, because people dumped illegally down there. Fishing game came out and figured out who it was, people over here on one of the streets, and they got them and arrested them, and they paid the fines for illegal dumping, and that's what that is, illegal dumping. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be on state property or be on anybody's property. People possession, in our possession of their own property back there.
It's somewhere around 100 yards of debris, of concrete that's been dumped in there, and it meanders, it doesn't go straight, there's nobody ever shot a line, it's just kind of, the guy cut down a lot of trees, covered
Every
in
single
guns to
thing
get
that
the
he
stuff
has
in there.
done has all been
It
done
might,
illegally.
it might improve your understanding of it if you just drive back there and look at it.
I looked at it.
You've
I'm
been
not-
back in
I'm-
there?
I stopped my car, looked right down the road there. I'm not gonna step onto somebody's property if I don't know.
His
whose it is.
property's 2,300 feet in.
Okay, Mr. Dilge, I'm not here to get into a word perfect challenge with you tonight, okay? I'm just not.
I'm just suggesting you could
We have
familiarize
a
yourself.
competent.
There are a lot of
zoning
people
officer.
concerned about it, you could
We have a
familiarize yourself
competent
by
zoning
visiting the
officer.
site, that's all.
We have a competent zoning officer that I feel is being proactive and doing what he has to do. And council can't tell him any further what to do. He's taking the appropriate actions. He's aware of everything. He's made summonses and he's trying to do the best that he can. And our solicitor said tonight, these people know that they got a free pass.
I have one piece of pertinent information. Dave Bernard has shot a survey down that path. He has set the corners of this lot based off of that legal description. Dave knows where the center line of
The paper.
whatever is to be perceived to be Sixth Avenue is. Just saying.
Was he hired by?
Yes, he was hired by Mr. Hupperick, yes. There are corners set at the back of my property. He had all four corners
So
marked.
Mr. Bernard has already shot his lines out over there, and is that a paper street, or is that?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I'm just telling you as a matter of fact, as a point of fact. Dave Bernard knows where the center line is.
You gotta cross 3 properties to get there. You gotta cross fishing game, Pete Possesnik, Art Possesnik, and then it's a paper street. Because all
Joe
the-
Vander has a piece of property next door to that, and next door to that is a fellow by the name of Rich Perrin, actually.
Mr. Josie, would it behoove
They
us
both back up to
follow
my
the
property, the
division of
corner of
Fish and
my
Game
property.
too?
Well, a lot of what you're hearing tonight is all on point. There's a variety of different regulations from a variety of different enforcement authorities that seem to be potentially in violation. What I would suggest is just to keep it coordinated, have your zoning officer, to the extent that he can write tickets for things that are within his code and his jurisdiction, write as many tickets as he can. Because many of these things are going to be treated as continuing violations, not one and done. But also, we should reach out to the other agencies that have jurisdiction, DEP, Fish and Game, the one that's been talked about tonight. Perhaps the state DEP generally, to the extent it owns land out there, and just Wayne could refer to them, whatever complaints he has. So to the extent that something is happening out there that's not within his jurisdiction, perhaps like illegal dumping. He can write a ticket, but we don't enforce that one, that is enforced by the state. Then you have basically all of the potentially interested or agencies that have some authority over it, all engaged and all in possession of complaints that cover, one would assume, the full range of wrongdoing that's happening.
So we should leave this to Wayne to take care of this. Have one contact person and one.
Yeah, Wayne's the logical person for that because he's already running
He's
cities.
and
And although he has escaped tonight, I'm going to talk to him as a follow-up based on what the mayor requested that we do, and I'll tell him that it was a sense of council. They would also like him to coordinate and make sure that other agencies have received complaints.
And by the way, for the record, Judd, there is no member of city council, including myself, that has the authority to tell Wayne to write this guy a summons. We cannot do that. There's no member of this council that can say, hey, I want this guy to have a ticket. That's illegal.
I don't think they were saying that, but I think what it is, the point of the city council is to stay on Wayne to make sure that he's following through.
Wayne
Not
is staying
pushing
on
it
this
to
matter. I truly know
Well,
that
I'm
Wayne
just
doesn't
saying
want,
to,
he doesn't
it
want
would look good for you to make sure that it is being taken care of.
Best of my knowledge, no member of council has instructed the zoning officer to write any violation.
Never I anyway.
There you go. Let's move on to the, is there anyone else further from the public here? Make a motion.
Actually, one quick question,
All in favor?
one quick question.
Motion and a second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
I had my hand up before you called for the motion, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Pope, you've already been called upon twice.
and others have now been called upon multiple times. I'm just gonna make the simple suggestion,
Go ahead, Mr. Pope.
I'm just gonna make the simple suggestion that making the simple suggestion that perhaps council authorize the solicitor to send a letter to the Attorney General pointing out that for these municipal code violations, so we're not talking about other things where there could be issues of due process and everything else, but for code violations, that the bench warrant provision in their order be changed. And therefore, the judges can act on that. And that is separate and apart from habeas corpus and due process and all those other fancy Latin terms related to fairness for individuals. But if you direct that to be done, that is something that we have a niche, and I would imagine we are not the only ones out of 566 municipalities with that type of problem.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. There was a motion.
Could act on that too, but anyway.
Any opposed? Moving down the line here, Michael.
Okay, good evening, board. Be brief, some good news. We submitted both roadway plans, Fifth Avenue and resurfacing of Maple to the DOT. Received review letters earlier this week and one today. Some nominal comments, so we'll make those necessary revisions. And I'll coordinate with Judd and set a bid date and try to get these projects under construction as a late fall project for this year. And then lastly, we submitted the application for the 2022 DOT Municipal Grant Aid for South Jersey Avenue and 13th Street. Just a reminder to the mayor and Judd that with this year, the application for the resolution has changed in the past. We've received paper copies from council, submit 3 to the DOT that are required with this application. This year, they're requiring the resolution to be filed under the new DOT system. Well, it's a statewide system. It used to be SAGE, it's now PMRS. So this application requires this resolution be completed digitally. The mayor needs to complete a portion. Once that section is completed, it gets forwarded to the clerk, and then the clerk needs to submit. This was due the 31st of this month. However, there's been some issues with the new system, transferring Sage over to the PMRS. So the state has extended the deadline an additional 2 weeks. So just a reminder that this resolution needs to be submitted digitally. Our office has been in contact with Judd to get that resolved, so that's just a reminder that needs to be submitted under this new system with this grant application for 2022.
Did I see somewhere, not on this letter that I received from the state, that all council received as well, but didn't I see correspondence from you, Mike, that indicated that this has to be done by August the 9th? Or is it the 19th?
I believe it's the 19th. It was 2 weeks from, I don't have a letter in front of me, but that sounds about right.
And by the way, this system here, it's completely foreign, I've never heard of it being done this way.
It's brand new, it's replacing the old system. So these applications we submitted under Sage, the DOT manually took these applications and imported them onto the PMRS system. And there's been all kinds of issues statewide, that's why they extended the deadline an additional 2 weeks. Running into situations, we were getting warnings from the state to the other mayors that they needed to submit this resolution. The DOT hadn't even uploaded their application under the new system. So this has been an ongoing problem throughout the state. So it's a new technology. I know the DOT has offered classes for municipal clerks to review, to follow along, so they're familiar with this system. And certainly, our secretaries are familiar with this. If there's any questions, they've been in contact with Judd to try to facilitate things. So
We're gonna finalize it on Friday, I talked with your staff person.
okay.
By the way, I just heard you say this has to be done by resolution, we're gonna have to do a resolution, so let's just listen out.
I thought that we did the resolution, but this is more of a digital.
It was my understanding you guys did the resolution last month, and then now it just needs to be digitally submitted and signed off on. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So the one resolution that we did do is sufficient, we don't have to do a resolution pertaining to the digital signing off of?
That's my understanding, that that resolution was sufficient. Now they want it submitted electronically with your signature and the clerk's signature digitally. It was so much easier to send those 3 hard copies in the past, so I understand. It's,
I'm convinced technology is gonna be the modern Roman Empire. It's always nonsense. Anything else, Mike?
that's all I have this evening.
Judd, can we perhaps maybe do this tonight?
No. Absolutely. I gotta have direction by his secretary to take care of it. I've been in it before and it is complicated, you have to work through the maze stuff.
Okay, so,
I may be able to submit on your behalf or something, if it's just a checkbox or whatever the state wants
Yeah,
checked off, I don't know.
it's my understanding the mayor needs to sign off before it gets kicked to the clerk. So
Right.
you're gonna have a blank screen right now. So we submitted everything digitally. It's gonna be on the mayor's dashboard as an item to complete a task. It'll walk you through what you need to do in terms of signing off on the resolution. And once you submit that, it then activates Judd's screen under his dashboard under this system to do the final check through and then click and submit it to the state.
and you have sent that information over to the clerk, correct?
Correct. I know in some instances in other municipalities, the clerk has done the sign off on behalf of the mayor and work with their login. So,
That's what I was thinking, it's just a formality step to get through it, but we'll get through it.
Anything else?
that's it.
Thank you. That's it, going on?
Have a good night.
You just saying?
Motion to accept the engineer's report?
Second. All in favor? Moving down the line, here we have a bill list.
I make a motion to pay the bills for $44,937.19.
So second,
Second.
We have a item here for $1,798 for Cooper Levinson for non-retaining billing. What exactly is this?
That's the monthly bill that is outside of the retainer, that anything
Last
extra.
month was $6,000 and some odd dollar outside the scope of, I mean, quite frankly, to the best of my knowledge, Cooper Levinson was appointed, had never received a contract, never gone over the terms of a contract, and truthfully, in the past, all ordinances, resolutions, review of correspondence, review of contracts, and all telephone calls is supposed to be inclusive of the retainer fee. Why is everything a la carte? Obviously, somebody must know what these other items are, because Randy hasn't spoken to me in nearly 90 days.
Hey, nominated, Ms. Lister?
It's attached to the purchase order, the invoice, and it details everything.
So, what are these items that are here then? You know, short of having a real contract that's ever been executed, you know, we're just doing everything, winging it as we go.
Mayor, in respect for everyone's time, isn't that a question we should have found out the answer beforehand?
Well, in respect of the taxpayer, I'm gonna ask the question in a public meeting.
Can I ask a question? When the attorney, you guys negotiate a cost, you're gonna pay the attorney $24,000 a year. It gets you so much time, right?
It's always been in the past that it's inclusive of all resolutions, all ordinances, all telephone calls, all review of contracts.
Does it say
You
that?
know?
Blanket, no matter how much time you take of the attorney.
That's part of the retainer fee.
But
I
you
can't
said-
agree with that. We've had this discussion many times over the years for the extra billings from Cerny's firm, and
And
actually
he took
you were,
quite advantage of us.
you were, well then, okay. So then you agree that in fact you
No, I
were
never
being billed
agreed. I
outside
never
of the
agreed.
retainer for the work that they did
Never
beyond
agreed.
what was in the contract.
Okay.
But we paid them,
You and
right?
I are gonna get along great if you stop putting words in my mouth, because I never agreed with it,
Well, we paid them, right?
and I always voted no.
Whose responsibility is it to get the contract?
Who's the
That
chair of
is
the
done by
finance
the
committee?
mayor, and Randy has never supplied a contract to me. It's still, it's like a year and a half later.
It's your responsibility to follow through with that.
It's also Randy's responsibility as well. He is the solicitor.
So you're saying you pay a fee to the attorney, so I'm just putting
$25,000
I
is
was
the
25, I
retainer
was
fee.
just close. And that's a blanket fee, however much time we need from
There are,
Mr.
there are,
Lafferty.
there are
That's
items,
included.
there are items that are included
No.
with that retainer fee. What is not included is when he's gotta go to court, tax appeals. When he's gotta go to court for something above and beyond, outside the scope of his retainer. And that's all supposed to be spelled out, but we never got it done.
May I suggest that we leave this particular invoice stand outside of the bill list that we're going to approve this month and take it up next month when Mr. Lafferty is here and can explain for you why things are such as they are. And I'm sure that he will be happy to remind us of the extraordinary things that he has done above and beyond what was expected when they gave us a retainer agreement. He has done it before. I'm sure that he will do it again. This is not, this is the second year with this firm. You've compelled them to explain themselves before.
Yeah, I would like to amend my motion to pay the bill list of $43,139.19, which is minus the Cooper Levinson bill for $1,798. Do I have a second?
Second.
On there, yeah.
I seconded. Roll call, please, if there's no further discussion about the bill list.
Yes, Mr. Dilch,
Yes.
Ms. Owen,
Hang on a second. So are you going to reach out to Mr. Lafferty and get this contract information?
I'm gonna send him an email.
Okay. Yes.
Ms. Sparks,
Yes.
Ms. Masker,
Yes.
Mayor Vinetti.
Yes.
Under the minutes, Mr. Mayor, I have we're trying to make contact with our labor attorney to look at the executive session on May 5th, and that hasn't done so. So that, you said to hold off before so we can go over that, so.
Hold off on that. And did you do a typo here? You have the July 7th regular meeting, and but yet in my packet, I received a copy of the June meeting.
Okay.
And I just saw it on my mailbox tonight, which it wasn't in there last night, the July meeting.
Okay, so I gave you the incorrect date, sorry about that. If you wanna hold off on that until you look at that.
Let's do the July minutes. I'm gonna motion to table the July regular minutes and also the executive session minutes of June, May the 5th. We haven't done the June meeting yet, have we? Or was that done last month?
That was done last month. These are the only minutes pending.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Jen, can you put on for next month under, old business, contract with, Cooper Licenses?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a couple articles of correspondence, moving down the list here. One from the former chairman of our planning board, Hal Goodman. Another one from Jesse Hand, the chief of the Dorothy Volunteer Fire Company. Mr. Goodman asked me to read into the record this letter.
When was that letter received?
Judd has sent it over to all of you. You all have a copy of it.
Right,
So-
which
so-
I just got tonight, so
Yeah.
you didn't get to
Well,
read it.
I'm gonna read this into the record anyway. It says here, Dear Mayor Joe, while having a conversation with a city councilman from Corbin City, he informed me of important reading of the ordinances regarding production of recreational marijuana in our city. Stunned by this pronouncement, I wondered why there wasn't a robocall sent citywide to all our tax-paying citizens informing us on this all-important issue. We received robocalls for shredding of documents, electronic disposal, and spay and neuter programs, just to name a few. Why no heads up on something that could pay almost all of our local purpose taxes? I attended the city council meeting and was appalled at the poor attendance and the acrimony of all city officials, including the city solicitor toward our elected mayor. They made no secret of the contempt and lack of respect, much to the glee of members of the audience. While sitting there, I reflected on my public service as a city councilman in Corbin City for 11 years before my wife Peggy and I built our home in Estell Manor. It was mandatory for elected officials and appointees to attend required government classes for Robert's rules, sunshine laws, and conflicts of interest. It was apparent that was lacking at this meeting. I spent 24 years serving on Estell Manor Zoning and Planning Board. In all that time on the board, never was there an application that contributed one dime to our local purpose tax. This application seemed like a no-brainer. This was apolitical, a nonpartisan issue. This is about lowering taxes. I personally did not vote in favor of the marijuana law in New Jersey, but 70% of the voters did. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas on June the 28th, 2021, said that federal laws against the sale and cultivation of marijuana are inconsistent, making a national prohibition unnecessary. This meeting was the worst public meeting I've attended in 35 years. How can taxpayers expect to be treated fairly and respectfully if members of council treat our mayor with disdain? How can the council choose to ignore the will of the people? This tax break would have been a boon to the city. If Estell Manor passes on this gift horse, the next town over will reap the benefits and we'll be kicking ourselves. This law is here to stay. This law is here and here to stay, whether you like it or not. The next time an application of this magnitude comes before the city, I ask that it be widely advertised so all voices can be heard. You have my permission to do whatever you want with this letter if it helps to inform the electorate of the opportunity for tax cutting windfall to benefit with any future applications. Respectfully, Hal Goodman, 24-year member of our zoning board, and an outstanding worker. We also have a letter of thanks from the Dorothy Volunteer Fire Company, or excuse me, Dorothy Volunteer Fire Company. We would like to take this opportunity to thank you for the continued support of your EMS service. Our organization has worked extremely hard over the past several years as we have transitioned from all volunteer service to a 24/7 paid entity. We have been able to accomplish this with minimal financial impact to the communities we serve and continue to look at ways to offset increases in labor costs, capital purchases, and supply costs. With this in mind, we would like to discuss the use of CARES funds earmarked for local governments to be utilized for COVID-related expenses. Our hope is to secure funding from Weymouth Township and the City of Estell Manor to replace our 2002 Braun ambulance, which has reached the end of its serviceable life.